guys. Hi everyone who's joining us. We're about to start, and before we do, as you can know, my name is Vlada. I'm going to be moderating today, and our speaker is Samantak. And while we're still waiting a little bit, please introduce yourself, where you come from, where do you study. You can write what time it is for you, because for me it's, for example, 5 p.m. right now. So you can also share the time if you really want to. And we will soon start out. We've got people from India, from Nigeria, then India, Kenya, Uganda. Nice. Keep them coming. Oh, it's 5 p.m. in Kenya too, and in Lebanon. Nice. Okay, that's awesome. Same time. That's absolutely great. Okay. Well, then I would like to introduce our today's speaker. I would like him to say hi first so that we could see him on the screen, and I'm gonna present him to all of you guys.
Hey guys, hi Vladislav. Thank you so much for having me here today. Absolute pleasure. Looking forward to connecting with you guys. Looking forward to talking, and hearing.
Yes, Samantak is amazing. I mean, he's just a great person. He is the founder and PR consulting company called The Sound that, apart from providing services to for-profit companies, works closely with various not-for-profit organizations and CSR departments of companies to create weird, creative, and fresh and meaningful advocacy of programs and efforts across geographies and sectors. Prior to this, he was a cause marketing consultant and a CSR manager at Titan Company, where he created the 5-year CSR strategy for the company, handled advocacy for the flagship CSR program, and enabled tech and CSR management. So I would like to ask you for a few little, notes, some initial remarks for the start from you for all the fellows.
Thank you so much for such a detailed bio. Rather, it's always you always feel like you're always like in between. You don't know if you should smile too much or smile too less. What's the correct amount of smiling that's appropriate to the bio? But yeah, thank you so much. I mean, moving forward, yes, not much to add after what after what Vladislav was actually said about my journey. Overall, it's been around 12 years of trying to dabble in various sectors, different kinds, and trying to basically, learn on the go and kind of change and course correct along the way as life has happened. A lot of it started with, the Millennium Fellowship itself, and back in 2015, and soon after, when I realized, that's a space that I personally connected with. CSR as a space was at the time was a new baby in the corporate world in India at that point in time. And of course, given my formal education has been in marketing and in advertising, my desire and hope always was to see how I can bring meaningful advocacy or communication to, social impact or impact consulting. There's so many fancy words, right? Cause marketing, etc., etc. And that is what kind of led me. I was initially a journalist for a while. Then I was an entrepreneur. 2010, 11, did some of the stuff. Then the fellowship happened. Post that, Titan, wasn't a very for-profit formal, marketing space. Moved on, to CSR, and then became completely purely embroiled in anything and everything CSR, sustainability. And post that, I went on to kind of also consult for a few organizations, in the impact space. And today, the Sound is essentially a culmination of all of this. Although for-profit is definitely one part of it, but a huge part of what we do is with not-for-profits, is with other organizations creating impact in the country in various sectors. So, I'm extremely proud and happy to be here today because MCN and the fellowship have hold a very, very special place in my heart for being part of my formative years and for making me what I am today, essentially. And I'm so very glad to see so many people here today who probably well on their journey of becoming amazing entrepreneurs, leaders, social impact thinkers, activists, I don't know, so on and so forth. So yeah, thank you for having me today for that.
We're very happy to have you. I think all of the fellows are looking forward to this webinar because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think that we, dive into the Q&A now. So I think you gave out a pretty nice, background. But I was wondering to ask you, what was life like growing up in India for you? Were there any life experiences that shaped you and led you into this career of social impact? If you would like to go into that, I can repeat if anything.
But that's a good question. Thank you for it's a very well thought out question. Life in India, especially, of course, I mean, like with anybody, I mean, it's not a very, I don't have a generic answer, so to say, but definitely, so to say, a life in India for me, and for many other, kids in my in similar atmospheres as mine, as that I grew up in, was a lot of fun, a lot of play, a lot of different kinds of exposure, but at the same time, when it came to, thinking of a career, when it came to thinking of where we want to be, where we want to go with our lives, what do we want to do in the future, a lot of it was probably influenced by the herd mentality. Like if there are 15 other, 20 other people around me who've done these things, probably that's the correct way to go. Or if it was not that, it was the financial stability that mattered a lot, right? So any space that was lucrative in nature, in India, for example, there are different spaces: engineering, being a doctor, being in medicine, yes, yeah, being a manager, doing an MBA, and etc., etc. All these spaces are the usually lucrative spaces that one hovers in, because it generally has a defined career path. It ensures that you can grow in a particular way and you can kind of have a certain kind of lifestyle, so on and so forth. So a lot of it was kind of, I'm not saying everybody kind of has similar parameters, but generally speaking, if I have to be generic to a certain degree, that's what it was when it comes to deciding. I mean, I'm talking about life in India from a career perspective. Life in India generally can be a much larger conversation for another day, but I mean, from that perspective, this was that. But hey, I mean, at the same time, there were so many of my friends who knew from a very young age that they wanted to be musicians, or they wanted to be this, they wanted to be that, they wanted to be artists, they wanted to be, I don't know, writers, and so on and so forth. And therefore, inspiration came from various angles. And from that perspective, I'd say from a pretty young age itself, social impact. I mean, at the risk of sounding very hoity-toity, at the risk of sounding very, pseudo ethical, social impact was a no brainer, right? I mean, deforestation or rapid urbanization, or what we call development, but the stuff that comes to development that none of us talk about, which is you know environmental degradation, or like many other, and typically, for a country like India, there were various other existing issues that already were being handled very admirably by lots of people across the country, but also that still needed to be tackled, and which we would see around us, socioeconomically speaking, across different strata of society, so on and so forth. So definitely all of that, consciously or subconsciously, kept on kind of getting, embedded in the brain in a kind of a parallel narrative that happened as we moved along and lived life in the country. And more often than not, once in a while, you'd probably see a tree being cut right in front of your face. It's very immediate, it's very present. And in some other cases, it would be distant. It'd be happening maybe 400 kilometers away. Something else has happened to some family, something, so far or distant, consciously or subconsciously, social impact is something that, or social causes, social issues really were a space that you couldn't avoid. It's a space that you couldn't kind of say, okay, it's a thing I could look at. It's a thing I could consider as a reality, or maybe not. And maybe from that space itself, the fact that it's so it's such a huge part of reality, as we grow up, was also kind of what probably eventually became an easy decision for me as to why I do want to do what I want to do with my life. Like when we say meaningfulness, for me, the definition or the resultant interpretation of the word meaningful was this: like, let's do something with social. Let's spend our life there. Let's spend some time there. Let's do something with this. Let's build whatever skill sets we are. Let's build whatever skill sets I'm passionate about, but let's use that skill set in the context of social issues. How can we make that happen? How can we connect that bridge? So that is, I mean, maybe it's a little digress from your question, but life in India was probably, trying to be a hashtag rebel once in a while, and trying to take the route that you wanted to take.
No, that's great. I think that it really like answers, with all of these two questions combined. This is, I think, what fellows wanted to know. And I mean, thank you for the answer. It's pretty interesting. And I love how you tell things. That's also very cool. You know, the storytelling behind it. I think that's amazing. So another question that I also want to ask you is, what do you remember and what do you cherish most about your undergrad years? About your
Um,
undergrad? Yeah. Tell us a
that's
little.
a really nice question because it's of course nostalgic in nature, right? No matter how much I want to hide it and no matter how much I want to sound formal, I can't but hide a little smile, a little smirk, thinking of all those days, right? But yes, I mean, really coming to the crux of the question, it was community. Before undergrad and after undergrad, it's more often than not every man for himself. I mean, you still have your community, you have friends, you stay connected, life happens, you build a new community, etc. But during undergrad years, during your college years, and during your student years, you meet and experience, you meet a very different and diverse set of people whom you've never met before, ever. Maybe a small percentage of the community belongs to the same community or space, or the same life in India piece that you grew up in, but there were so many others who came from so many other different uh, spaces in life, different socioeconomic strata, different religions, different likes and dislikes, and different desires and passions in life. And then imagine all of these people staying together for a number of years and coexisting and cohabitating harmoniously and very fruitfully so. And that was the magic that I loved and I still miss. I still wish I could wake up in the morning, go and meet these friends of mine, work and brainstorm on a case study together. And more often, what led to the creation of the student community that I had created as a formal student unit was called Code. It was a debating society, right? My undergrad years was spent in basically MBA management, marketing. But the idea of Code really was to see, can such marketing management leaders eventually develop such a nuanced understanding of the world, such a nuanced understanding that they become great opinionated leaders, can develop an opinion for themselves, and it was mostly targeted towards developing an opinion towards social issues. Can they use their skill sets? Can they use their fluency? Can they use their connects? Can they use their brains? Can they use their personality to actually further and solve social issues? And that was at the very core crux of what I wanted to do with the student community. And I was able to do that, and I was convinced and encouraged to do that because of the community themselves. I learned from them. I learned that there are many, very many people out there who are madly crazy about certain social issues, be it in healthcare, be it in environment, be it in water and sanitation, be in any of these spaces. I genuinely felt that raw passion in them, that energy, that only as a community that could really get amplified and connected. And that's what I really miss the most about my undergrad years. I wouldn't have even taken part in MCN. I wouldn't have come forward and applied for the fellowship ever if I did not have the support, of my peers. I wouldn't have felt that I've done something with it if my peers were not there to also make the club that much better, that much bigger. And if I did not have enough juniors following up on that and really making it larger than life after that. So community for me is something that I extremely miss, I cherish, and I hope everybody has it as they go on with their lives.
That's a great answer. I think a lot of fellows, I think that, we have the community of Millennium fellows that would absolutely agree with that. I would, I'm doing my fourth year, so I would absolutely agree with this, community statement. This is really what I would also associate. That's wonderful. And I mean, going a little bit, I think more into details, I wanted to ask you, are there any particular like moments or interactions in specific spaces or with certain people that helped you find the purpose and meaning? So that could go for university or just maybe, a little bit broader, but kind of in this area.
Mhm. So essentially, very surprisingly enough, back in the day, I had worked on setting up, a startup, uh, which was in the space of consumer grievance redressal. Essentially, in India, we don't have a very robust, we do have a proper mechanism set up, but it's not as well implemented as far as consumer grievances are concerned. It's essentially, for example, if you find a bug in your Coke, you generally just have a fight with the, with the person who sold it to you, and just, probably soil each other's days and just move on with no resolution, or just give up and say it's a bad day and move on. Or that one person who has the means and the willpower, that go to court, that fight, In a consumer court in India, you don't need a lawyer to represent you. So essentially, you can go fight the court case, but how many of us ever do that? So all of that kind of was, what do you say? That phenomenon led me to kind of create this, or work on creating the startup where we were working towards, creating a pool of lawyer students who could then kind of, represent court cases, represent such consumer grievances in the country, in the consumer courts, because, you don't need a certified lawyer, but a legal student also gets exposure in court, so it's great for them. And at the same time, what happens is, our model was completely for free. That whatever we earn, will earn by winning a case for the consumer. We'll take a commission from that. So essentially, for a consumer, right from somebody who is at the bottom of the pyramid to somebody who's somewhere in the middle, or somebody who's like, well off or whatever, for everybody, it becomes a very equal. It becomes an offering that's equally available for everybody. Be it somebody who's had a very small consumer grievance issue, or somebody who's having a really big issue. So at that time, it was just a bunch of us friends getting together and saying, hey, we have a spark, let's work on this. And somehow it worked. Somehow it took off. We got people interested. Eventually that company was sold off to another company, eventually grew up into a larger consumer grievance kind of a organization that still works towards addressing consumer grievances. So that kind of validated my belief in myself. I was like, okay, had an idea, somehow put it together with friends, and we made it work to a certain degree, and it got validated. People liked it. People wanted more of it. So definitely, if I'm able to identify and clarify and define a certain kind of, issue, I think, if I'm able to define the problem statement well, and if I'm able to kind of put my mind to it, maybe, just maybe, I can make it work. So that was the defining kind of moment a decade back. I'm talking about a decade, and since then, it's kind of been a journey to rediscover that emotion. So for me, it was really not multiple. I mean, across the way, I've met multiple people who've inspired me along the way. I can keep on talking about them, but in the interest of brevity and interest of clarity, that one decision was kind of uh, very monumental in telling me that yes, this is the kind of space I want to be. I want to be in a space where I can actually create real change and not just make presentation decks. That was for me the push, that okay, I want to be on the ground. I want to actually see that change happen. And these friends of mine, the community again, without them, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. It's been all because of everybody else's.
Well, that's an amazing story. I love it. Absolutely. I think that it's really important to, surround yourself with such amazing people, and especially when they help you out on your journey and you do things together, that's just so wonderful. But I think also it probably really goes into this other question that I've got, which would be, as we all fellows, we work on our projects, we work through our studies, and there could be students asking themselves what their degrees really mean, or fellows asking themselves, like, what does my project mean for this and for themselves, for their communities? And I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what does it mean to find meaning in, in life, in work? So if you would go there, if you would share your thoughts, I think everyone would love it.
I mean, this is a really nice question, because I'm probably nobody to talk about the word meaning at a very definitive level. But at the same time, as far as my personal journey has been concerned, meaning's really been, achievable to a certain degree, to whatever degree, let's say 1, 10, 15% I've been able to achieve it, and so much more left to achieve and learn. Probably been achieved because, after a point of time, you have to start cutting out the noise. There's always so many kinds of advices, even from me, right now you're getting all of this, all of these things I'm saying. At the end of the day, nothing, if you feel, at the core of it, at the gut of it, that what I'm saying is probably not connecting with you, chances are it really isn't connecting with you. And you go with your gut. It's okay to not believe in something what somebody else has told you, right? But unfortunately, the way the human brain is wired, the way we work is, we kind of, decide the pros and cons in life. We decide what degrees are meaningful, what's not, what work is meaningful, what's not, based on what we've learned, of our environment, from our environment. From We are social animals, and so if there are 15 friends saying that, hey, the degree that we are working on right now is so super cool, it's so cool. I mean, it's cool and lucrative and this and that. You just somehow feel, even without a logical interpretation, you feel that that is the coolest thing you could be doing. But in many cases, right? But I mean, but frankly speaking, I mean, as far as meaning is concerned, uh, you know, if you've taken up the degree that you're doing, or if you've taken up the work that you're doing, and you've gone through it over at least 1, 2, 3 years, and there's still a portion of you that still likes what you're doing, you're probably on the right side. There's always going to be ups and downs, right? There's always going to be downs in whatever you're studying. There's always going to be down in whatever social issue you're working on. There's always going to be downs in whatever career path you've chosen, and those are things we don't talk about. We only talk about the ups because it makes for a great story, but at the end of the day, if that one up, if there have been 7 downs followed by one day where there's an up, and you feel really, really kicked about that up, you're in the right space. I think we just kind of, we are our own worst enemies. So, even while studying, even while I was doing my, marketing degrees, I was like, do I really want to be in marketing after this? I don't know. Marketing is so much uber capitalism. So much of marketing is about, like, it's about selling this soap, and I know the soap is filled with chemicals, and there's going to be chemical runoff into the trees. And I'm putting up a Instagram post talking about, waste and chemical waste runoff, and on the other hand, I'm starting to go and earn money from that chemical manufacturer, from the soap manufacturer. Am I just the biggest epitome of everything that's hypocritical in this world? And we have all these questions, right? Sometimes some of them are existential, some of them are not. But at the end of the day, you can also work around it, right? So my way of working around it was simply this. I mean, hey, I love marketing. I love what it is. I love the creativity involved in it. I love the kick I get when a marketing campaign or a communication campaign actually, catches people's fancy, and it becomes a story that I love to live with. It becomes a great memory. How can I use this love for marketing? How can I use this now? How can I tweak it to make it meaningful for me? And that is where, even where the sound as a company is, therefore, if you see our tagline on the website, it's where we say where weird meets meaningful. So anything we're doing in marketing right now, mostly for not for profit and even for the for profits, the idea is to try and break marketing the way it is being done right now. Our question really, and the challenge we're trying to answer, is, can marketing become meaningful again? It sounds like an oxymoronic statement, but we believe that it can. We are a team of people who may not, like, who are trying to do something that's kind of perceived to be not so possible at this point in time, but that's also the kick we get out of it. With every little success we get, we feel that, yes, we're closer to making marketing meaningful again. And that's really the thing. That's what I feel. I mean, if you're getting that kick 1 out of 8 days, you're on the right path.
I agree with this, honestly, because I mean, I'm doing the communications degree, and I'm sure that a lot of fellows are also studying something. And there were, sometimes there would be moments when you'd be like, is this really what I'm into? But then there are also these moments when you're like, yes, actually, this is what I like. This is what I want to do. So I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, I had moments like that myself too. I'm pretty sure other fellows can relate. Okay, so then I've got one last question from myself to you, and we're going to be going to the Q&A session. So you can, think of your questions now while Samantak is going to be answering mine, the last one. And I wanted to ask you what advice would you give to Millennium Fellows that are going through school and are working on their projects currently now? What would you advise them?
Oh, just simply, I mean, you guys have already, I at the risk of over glorifying, I'm not even over glorifying. I'm literally, I'm talking the truth. You guys have already taken the right step. You guys are in the Millennium Fellowship. You guys are, so to say, you guys have started living the dream. I would say it like that. That's how I interpret it. Okay, like we can debate, but I really love the journey that you guys have taken up. I really love being known as a Millennium Fellow. I am very proud about being a Millennium Fellow. All I would definitely tell you, the only thing I definitely tell you guys is, you guys are already on the right path. you've done what you had to do. Now please go out there and be weird. That's all I'll say. Just be weird. By weirdness, I don't mean to say the way the word weird is construed in the world, like, oh my god, that person is so weird. No, not that way. I mean weird is, whatever you guys do out there, whatever impact work you're working on, look at doing something interesting and fresh about it. If you're working on a very very similar space, in a space that's extremely crowded, whatever role you have, just try to ensure that, for whatever it means, try to bring in that freshness, that non-conformism, that little edginess, that little something that will really, push the pedal, move that number, move the needle, in terms of impact numbers or your outcome, whatever. Even when in CSR, when I was not in marketing, in Titan, when I was in CSR, the endeavor for the team was always this: just trying to be a little more weird every day. In our work with girl children, in our work with environment, in our work in sustainability, that it was, how can we kind of do something differently that people take up, sit up and take notice.
That's excellent. I think that's an amazing advice for all the fellows. I think everyone's like so now motivated even more. I love this, honestly. Okay, then I suggest we go into the Q&A. And I see that we've got one raised hand from Nafia Faria. So I would like you to introduce yourself. So please tell us your name, where you're from, where do you study, so that we know a little bit about you. And then please tell your question to Samantak.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor. My name is Nafia and I'm from Bangladesh, and I'm currently a final year student of economics from Bangladesh University of Professionals. And I had one question for Samantak is, I have a project that is, less traveled, project to empower marginalized women. Women we don't, think about, like, how can I say, rape victims, and how can we empower them and their mental health. So I have this fear always that what if I can't make an impact within these 3 months? I mean, I have just started out from scratch. So I fear all the time, what if I can make an impact? And also, what if I can make an impact and show an impact through my work within these 3 months? Will it make me a failure? Will it make me a failure fellow? Or yeah, that was my question.
Very interesting, Nafia. I'll just quickly answer this. And let me tell you, this is a very common matter, because the reason you've got into this is because you want to do so much, but real world matters give you this much time to do that much, So my only thing is, it's a very technical response from my end. Just break down, just separate the word outcome from impact. Okay, impact is what happens at the very end of the day. So today, if you're helping the woman, if you're empowering that particular person, you're not even going to be able to empower the person in 3 months. Empowerment doesn't happen in 3 months, right? No matter how much you put 24/7 and the purest and the best of efforts, you won't be able to empower even one person. But what you'll be able to do is create outcomes. Outcomes in the sense that you'll be able to get 10, you'll be able to identify 10 women you want to work with, and you'll get a certain amount of work done with each of them. So there'll be a delta improvement in those 3 months. That delta improvement with the 10 people on a sheet, on paper, tangibly is an outcome, right? Now, what is an impact? Impact is when you worked with these people, then you move on, some other teammates work on it, and, a few years have gone by. This lady then goes on to have a financially sound life, has a good family, etc., etc. The impact will happen many years later. When the impact of what you've done today will only show up later in that woman's and in the community's life, right? So if you have tree planting sessions, it's not like suddenly oxygen levels become better, everything's fine with them. I mean, if you keep on doing it, maybe 15, 20 years down the line, you'll see the impact, because that's impact. This is the outcome. What you need to ensure is you measure your outcomes, tell yourself in 3 months, this is the kind of outcome I want. This is the number of women I want to work with. This number of beneficiaries I want to work with. This is the kind of effect I want to have on the beneficiaries, and achieve those in 3 months. Let impact take care of itself. Put in an honest effort for the 3 months.
Thank you so much for your question. And thank you so much for your answer. We will go to another one. I would ask Tanmay to ask the question to firstly, of course, introduce where your name, where you come from, university, and then state the question, please, to Samantak.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tanmay Singh. Apologies for not being able to turn on the camera today. My connection won't allow it. But I'm from India. I'm doing a biology major from Ashoka University. And I want to ask a question to Samantha, which is this. So you mentioned the importance of community in your undergraduate journey, right? And as undergraduates ourselves who are navigating through this unforeseen virtual world where we ourselves are unsure of how things will turn out in the future, how do we make sure that this sense of community is not lost? Like making and forging relationships is much easier in physical situations when you can see the person in front of you and feel them in front of you than online, right? So how do we ensure that despite this problem, we don't lose that such an important sense of community that you mentioned?
Wow, that's a brilliant question. I have to admit that I'm a little bit stumped. I'll tell you why. Because my undergrad years, were pre-COVID, right? So any answer I give will be a little biased, will not be true to the present of what you're going through, right? So the best person who can answer this is you, right? I mean, only you can tell me, the actual impact that not having a physical community around you is feeling like. But at the risk of at the risk of not having lived this, I'd still venture a response on this is that, I would probably take it in a certain manner where, I'd probably play it in a little bit of a clever manner, right? You're in city A, your entire student base is comprised of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and ICTs. As far as people in city A are concerned, is there a way that once in a while, in a staggered manner, following safety protocols, would you be able to start kind of physically meeting at least the people in your community? It's not the best solution, but at least it's a start. And I completely agree that no matter how many innovative responses you get about connecting virtually, a physical meetup, a physical connection as a human is far superior to anything virtual, right? So I wouldn't even warrant trying to pitch virtual against physical. It's a no-brainer. We know that if there was no COVID, you would have definitely had the advantage of community. But because you don't have it right now, the next best thing possible right now is to slowly, safely, but surely try and connect at least with a few people, right? And then, eventually, hopefully if things keep on getting better, don't lose those connections, don't lose these people and with the other people. So for example, in your entire student base, there might be certain folks who you align with a little better than the others. When I say community, I'm not saying I was well connected and equally invested in each person in the 200 people community, right? It would have been a certain percentage of it that I kind of eventually lived and drew inspiration from. Similarly, all I'm asking you is for you to start off somewhere, the best possible, start off somewhere, meet a few people, and then with some of the others with whom you've organically and virtually developed connections, stay connected, keep on talking, keep on getting on video, keep on making faces, keep on making really, really bad jokes, and keep on doing all of these things and probably start kind of, just connecting as humans. Work, studies can come later. Just start connecting. Just keep on connecting every Wednesday, every Thursday, or like 3 times in a week. Just probably get on a video call for no reason whatsoever, with no agenda. Just look at each other, zone out for 30 minutes. I don't know. That's probably a more funnier way of looking at it. But what I'm trying to simply say is just get on a call without any agenda. Just get on a call when there's no professor in the room. Just see if that helps.
That's a great answer. I think everybody loved that one from the reactions I see just from the cameras and just the reactions here in chat. So thank you so much for the question. Thank you so much for the answer. Now I see that Cody has a raised hand, so I would ask to go next. Also, please introduce yourself, the university, and then state your question.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Cody Jachima, and I go to Babcock University in Nigeria, and I'm a 400 level law student. So my question is this: some of us doing the Millennium Fellowship project, like a couple of my friends and I were in school. So how do you propose that we balance out like school and trying to impact the world? Because as much as an education is important, it's also important to care about your environment and look for ways to change it in the little ways that you can. Our slogan is changing the world one bottle at a time. That's my friends and I our slogan. So like how do we do that? And then like also balance out our education and ensure that we still come out like top and make the impact that we want to make in the world.
That's very interesting. Cody, I'd probably have one question for you that way is, there are certain things you do every day or every weekend, which you always have time for somehow, right? In life, right? There's always magically some time available for that, you know. Uh, Definitely, if you've taken the life of becoming, if you've taken the route of becoming a leader in impact, and you're also like, working towards building a career as, right now as a student, you have to keep both going, right? But your student hours are within a certain period of time. It's either from 9 a.m. to like 5 p.m. or whatever, right? That won't change. Your exams are still going to happen at those correct calendar days and calendar times. You won't have too much of a movement, right? So that is a part of your life that's structured, right? That won't generally surprise you. There may be some surprises once in a while, but it won't generally surprise you, right? All I say is when you're working with for your student organization, working towards something, and that's also something we learned through the fellowship is it's very important to clearly define your goals. At the end of how many ever years you have left in student life, what is the end goal you're looking at? Because it's easy to fall into a trap of being too ambitious and wanting to do like 10 things, 15, 20 different things at the same time. That is when you feel overwhelmed, right? So if you have, let's say, 1 or 2 years left as a student leader running a student organization, and also, you got to do your studies, define those goals, define succession planning well, these two things. What do you want to achieve at the end of 2 years, and find enough good people to delegate work to. Delegation and defining of your goals is going to go largely to ensure that you don't have a FOMO, that you don't you don't have the fear of missing out. Oh my God, I haven't achieved anything yet. I've put so much time into studying, I haven't achieved this, or the other way around, right? Just have those goals defined as an organization. Get together with your co-student leaders, define those goals. So when you achieve them, you feel calm, you feel peaceful, you know that you've got this.
Awesome. Thank you for the advice. And thank you for the question that, gave such amazing advice in a way too. So then I would like to Karan to ask the question again. And don't forget to introduce yourself. Let us know what you study, and then please state your question.
Hey Samantak, I'm Karan Krishnamurthy. I'm a second year undergraduate majoring in biotechnology from Amity University, Mumbai, India. And my question to you is, a major part of your work has been involving marketing, particularly corporate social responsibility or CSR. So I wanted to know when, integrating CSR with the motives of organizations, how did your strategies differ when dealing with for-profit organizations as compared to non-profit organizations?
Very good question. I mean, that's a very pertinent question for the organization I run currently. So essentially, as far as strategies are concerned, right? See, the positioning that we have as an organization is weirdness plus meaningfulness. Weirdness, like I mentioned, being fresh, being edgy, trying to do something that's non-status quo-ish. And meaningfulness is where we're trying to say, hey, marketing doesn't have to be an organization talking to humans. Can it become humans talking to humans again? Because even behind an organization and a brand, there are humans. We just have this facade called an organization. Is it possible to remove it and make it genuine again, right? So when it comes to not-for-profit, actually, because we have this philosophy and ethic in place already, ingrained as the DNA of the organization, it's tougher to do that with a for-profit organization because they're wired in a certain way. They're wired in a for-profit manner. They're wired in a corporate manner, But with a not-for-profit, being meaningful comes so naturally within the organization itself. So for example, one of the organizations we work with is an environmental activist organization. They work with gender and sexuality, they work with civic issues, bunch of stuff we work on. We work on end-to-end marketing for them, lots of stuff in marketing for them, right? So right from asking, e-commerce, players in the country to take down age-old sexist, lifestyle products, to, calling out a certain, municipal corporation somewhere because they're cutting too many trees, to, to talking about, harassment cases in certain universities and so on and so forth. We're running campaigns, signature campaigns, we're running, drives, we're running this, we're running that, we're creating awareness, conversations, and so many campaigns in parallel. But what's happening here? What's happening here is that the organization itself is doing such great work. The campaign managers and the campaigners are finding such great issues to work with. As a marketer, my life is easily, it's a little easier to be meaningful, because at the core of the organization is meaningful. But with the for-profit organization, I'm trying to sell a soap or a shampoo, or I'm just giving a random example, right? There's so many, so there, trying to be meaningful becomes that much tougher. And that is why this ethic that we have, this DNA that we have with the sound, is so very well suited for a non-profit marketing or advocacy. Is there a way to bring in interesting, because in India, as we know, NGOs and activist organizations don't really have the most colorful marketing campaigns in the world, nor do they have the budgets. So our endeavor is to kind of figure out how to work with them so it's feasible for them, but also bring creativity, color, interesting conversations, enjoyment, humor, relatability, all of that. And how they're already doing great work. How do we just put them out there? It's a little easier for us because it's already meaningful. All we have to do is bring in the weirdness.
I love the last part, which is like the bringing the weirdness. That's great. Okay, I see a raised hand from Ntalo. So I would like you to introduce yourself again, say the university, and then please state your question.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ntalo Mkabela. I am a second-year law student at the University of the Western Cape in South Africa. And my question is that since you're a person who is in marketing, how do I promote my project and ensure that, it reaches the right people so I can make an impact in the right people's lives? Thank you.
Santala, that's a huge question. That's literally, everything that I do in life. So that's for that, I'll probably have to send you like 100-pager, but just to not overwhelm or say anything like that, I'll probably tell you one thing. You want to market your product, firstly, can you explain your product in one sentence? Number one, the person who knows their product the best should be able to explain it very, very simply and very, very fast. Right? That's number one. Number two is, do you know who you're marketing it to? What's the age group? What are the geographies? Is it the entirety of South Africa? Are there certain regions? Are you looking international? Why so? So define that audience. Be very, very clear as to who you're trying to reach. Are you trying to reach millennials, Gen Z, older people, women, male? Define those. Define the demographics. Define the geographic reach. And define what we call psychographics, which is the interests. What this person that you're trying to target. What does this person do in the entire day? When they wake up, do they check out Netflix, or do they check out Instagram, or do they check out, I don't know, Microsoft Excel? What does that person do after that? What does that person eat, drink? Or what are the hobbies, likes, dislikes? Just make a rough understanding of that. Define who you want to reach. Define your product in a very clear, simple manner. And then find out where these people chill. Do they chill on Instagram? Do they chill on YouTube more often? Are they on TikTok? So then you have your marketing channels, right? So if you see, okay, guys, there's no point going on to 10 different channels. These guys predominantly hang on Instagram all the time. Just stay on Instagram. Just build it on Instagram and grow it there. Grow your thing there. And how to grow is a different conversation. I won't go into it, but just follow this first 2-3 steps and you should have some clarity as to who you want to reach, because marketing is a huge word and it'll feel daunting, and you'll have that many, that you have to be able to achieve so much and so much money, so that is something you have to figure out for yourself, but first define your audience, define who you want to reach out to very clearly, and define your product in one sentence.
Thank you so much for such, useful tips. And that was a great question. I think that it's relatable to everybody for here, because that's just what I was thinking of actually about, the whole marketing part myself not so long ago. So that's amazing. Thank you for answering, and thank you for asking. I also see Isa with a raised hand. So I would like Isa, if you can introduce yourself, please, and then state your question. Oh, wait a minute. You're still muted. Yeah, now you can go.
Can you hear me now? So my name is Izagul Awan, and I am a student of computer engineering, doing it from National University of Sciences and Technology, Pakistan. So my question to you is that, as you know, we have 400 plus participants in this session. All of them may not be very well trained about leadership or entrepreneurship. So what do you think are 3 to 4 very important points for us to know to start our organization with limited resources? Like, we have no funding and we have to start a non-profit thing. And we are not even if very much well trained in about leadership.
So, I mean, I don't know if it'll be 3 to 4, but the first thing you need to do is basically find your tribe, right? First up, thank you, Itza, for it's a wonderful question, and it's very pertinent for everybody who's starting off the journey, and I'm sure it's very pertinent, to what you learn at the fellowship also. It's something I learned from the fellowship too. I mean, of course, one very important thing you have to do is find people who can become your co-conspirators, right? Some people say find people with complementary skill sets. Some people say find somebody who can one up you in whatever you do. There are different formulae to it. There's no one size fits all kind of an approach, but just know that your team is everything. You have the vision, you have the clarity. As a leader, your job is to have clarity as to where you want the organization to go. That's all that you need to do, right? That's your first step towards becoming leader. Just spend some time driving a clarity. Don't say I want to do this and this and this. Among these 3 options, choose only one. Make yourself choose one option, right? Don't add 5 objectives when you can finish it off with 1 objective, right? So as a result of which, your job as a leader or to becoming a leader is define what exactly your organization should do. What is the job that your organization has? What is it going to do that others are not doing, right? Just define that piece. Once it's defined, it'll be easy for you to, one, believe in it, and secondly, find people who also believe in it as much as you. So how many people that should be, that's up to you. But be it 1 person, be it 2 people, be it 3 people, find your tribe. Find people, maybe somebody is great with marketing, great to talking to people. They'll do all the outreach and advocacy while you spend as much time as possible on working with the beneficiaries, whatever, right? But find those people who'll be able to kind of not only make the organization robust, but also kind of where you become best friends, right? You become peers for each other. A leadership is just a big word for being able to work well with people, right? So your organization are your people. So define that goal and get your tribe. These are the first 2 steps I definitely say that you should do when you're becoming an entrepreneur, when you're becoming a leader, and then later on, succession plan. That comes later, but not in the beginning. So yeah, these are the first 2 steps, at least I can tell you.
That's great. I think we love even the first 2 steps. That's already, very meaningful. So thank you. And we will be wrapping up with this session. So I wanted to ask you for some closing remarks. And also I wanted to ask you to provide like an email so that fellows can keep in touch with you in the chat, so that they could see it and contact you if anything, but also to hear some closing remarks from you too.
Closing remarks, essentially nothing much. I would definitely say that all the very best to all the fellows. I am so extremely proud of MCN and the journey it's had over the years. Extremely proud of being an alumnus of the fellowship, and I'm so very glad to see how it's grown both in number and across geographies. So all I would say to the fellows out here today You guys have made the right choice. You guys have hit on a gold mine. Utilize this fellowship, learn as much as you can from the fellowship, build that community, connect with so many wonderful student leaders that you're getting to meet here that you wouldn't probably get on any other platform. I at least haven't. The kind of people I met back in the day and the kind of connections I've kept is invaluable. So make connections, learn from each other, and definitely be weird.
Love it. I mean, I absolutely love all the parts that feature the word weird. They're so great. Thank you so much. Again, please share some of the contacts, like your social media handles, email, so that fellows can keep in contact with you, keep in touch. But other than that, thank you all so much for coming. I think it was a wonderful session. Thank you, Samantak, for being here, answering all the questions for me from the fellows. And thank you all so much for coming. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you liked it. You can find the email and some of the website and Instagram of the Samantak in the chat. So it's there, and you can always contact. Thank you all so much. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Doris, for actually being such a wonderful host and moderator. Thank you, MC, and for everybody. Thank you.